You shouldn't be watching this.
The night shift. I've been working the night shift as a security guard at Mercy General Hospital for exactly 1 year now, and I can tell you that the parking garage is the worst part of the job. 7 levels underground, fluorescent lights that buzz like angry wasps, and an echo that makes every footstep sound like someone's following you. The concrete walls sweat with condensation, and there's always this metallic smell in the air. Part exhaust fumes, part industrial cleaner, part something else I can't quite identify. But the pay is decent, and honestly, watching empty concrete levels all night seemed like easy money when I first took the job. The hospital administration warned me about the isolation, the way the night shift can mess with your head, but I figured I could handle it. I'd worked plenty of overnight security jobs before. Gas stations, office buildings, warehouses. How different could a hospital parking garage be? I should have known better. The garage serves the entire medical complex, the main hospital, the cancer treatment center, the cardiac wing, and the psychiatric facility. During the day, it's packed with hundreds of cars. Families visiting loved ones, doctors rushing between appointments, staff pulling double shifts. But at night, especially after visiting hours end at 9 p.m., the place becomes a tomb. Most of the cars clear out by 10 p.m., leaving just a handful of vehicles belonging to the overnight medical staff. My shift starts at 11 p.m. and runs until 7 a.m. 8 hours of walking through 7 levels of mostly empty concrete, checking for break-ins, vandalism, or medical emergencies. The hospital gave me a detailed route. Start at the top level, work my way down to B7, then back up. Complete the circuit every hour. Log everything, trust nothing. That last part should have been a bigger red flag. B3 through B7 were typically deserted until the morning shift arrived. But there it was, a blue Honda Civic, license plate JKL4892, sitting in spot 47 like it owned the place. I stopped walking and stared at the car. It was an older model, maybe 2015 or 2016, with a small dent in the rear bumper and a faded parking decal on the windshield. Nothing particularly unusual about it, except for the fact that it shouldn't have been there. I figured someone was working late, maybe a doctor pulling an all-nighter in the cardiac unit. It happens sometimes. Emergencies didn't follow a schedule. I made a note in my log. 2:17 a.m., unknown vehicle, B3 spot 47, plate JKL4892, and continued my rounds. The next level down, B4, was empty, as expected. Same with B5, B6, and B7. I finished my circuit and headed back to the security office, a small windowless room on the ground level next to the parking garage entrance. The office was cramped and stuffy, with a desk covered in monitors showing feeds from 37 security cameras throughout the garage, a coffee maker that had seen better days, and a logbook that went back 15 years. I settled into my chair and updated the main log with my observations. The Honda Civic was the only unusual entry. I figured I'd check on it during my next round at 3 a.m. But when I got back to level B3 an hour later, the car was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been there at all. I stood in spot 47 staring at the empty space. There was no oil stain, no tire marks, no sign that a car had ever been parked there. I swept my flashlight across the concrete floor looking for any evidence, but found nothing. The weird part? I'm stationed at the only entrance to the garage. There's a gate that requires a key card to enter, and I have to buzz people in manually after hours. The system logs every entry and exit with timestamps and license plate numbers recorded automatically by the cameras. I rushed back to the security office and pulled up the logs. According to the computer, the last car had entered at 6:47 p.m., a red Jeep belonging to Dr. Martinez from the ER. The last exit was at 8:23 p.m., a white Toyota driven by one of the night shift nurses. After that, nothing. No entries, no exits. The garage should have been completely empty except for the 7 vehicles belonging to the overnight staff, all parked on levels B1 and B2. I told myself I was seeing things. Night shifts mess with your head. Every security guard knows that. The fluorescent lights create shadows that move when you're not looking directly at them. The echoes play tricks on your ears. Your mind starts filling in details that aren't there. But then it happened again. And again. Different cars, different levels, but always the same pattern. They'd appear during my rounds, sit there for exactly 1 hour, then vanish without a trace. A red Toyota Camry on level B5, a black Ford F-150 on level...
a silver Mazda sedan on level B2. Each time I'd note the license plate, the location, the time. Each time I'd return an hour later to find an empty parking space. After a week of this, I started taking photos. The first picture I took was of the red Toyota Camry on level B5, license plate MNO-7731. I snapped it at 1:15 a.m., making sure to capture the license plate clearly. The flash illuminated the car's interior, clean, organized, a small stuffed animal hanging from the rearview mirror. When I came back at 2:15, it was gone. But here's the thing that made my skin crawl. When I reviewed the photo later, the car looked weathered, dusty, like it had been sitting there for months, not minutes. The exterior was covered in a thin layer of grime, and there were water stains on the windows. But I had just seen it. I had just photographed it. How could it look so neglected? I started a spreadsheet documenting everything: date, time, level, make, model, license plate, duration of appearance. Within 2 weeks, I had logged 37 different vehicles. The pattern was always the same. They'd appear during my rounds, stay for exactly 1 hour, then disappear. But as I kept tracking them, I noticed something else that made my blood run cold. The same cars kept showing up. The blue Honda Civic, that first night, appeared 6 more times, always in the same spot, B3, space 47. The red Toyota Camry showed up 5 times, always on level B5. Each time they appeared, they looked a little more weathered than before, a little more forgotten. It was like watching time-lapse photography of decay. The cars weren't just appearing and disappearing randomly. They were following a pattern, a schedule. And with each appearance, they seemed to be aging, deteriorating, as if they were slowly succumbing to the weight of time and neglect. That's when I decided to run the license plates. I have a buddy who works dispatch for the city police, Tommy Rodriguez. We went to the academy together about 10 years ago, before I decided security work was more my speed. He owed me a favor from when I'd helped him move apartments last summer, and I figured there was no harm in checking if any of these cars had been reported stolen. I gave him 10 license plates from my most frequent visitors, the ones that had appeared 3 or more times. I told him I was investigating some suspicious activity in the hospital parking garage, which was technically true. He called me back the next morning, and I could hear the confusion in his voice. "Mike, where did you get these plates?" "Just some cars I've been seeing around the hospital." "Why? Are they stolen?" "No, they're not stolen." "But Mike, this is weird. According to the DMV, these vehicles all belong to people who are, well, they're dead. And not recently dead. Some of these people died years ago." My blood went cold. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair, phone pressed to my ear. "What do you mean? The blue Honda Civic, plate JKL4892? That belonged to Sarah Chen. She died in a car accident 3 years ago. The red Toyota Camry, MNO7731? That was Marcus Johnson's car. He had a heart attack in 2019. Mike, every single plate you gave me belongs to someone who died in the past decade. I hung up and stared at my spreadsheet. 37 cars. 37 dead people. And they were all appearing in the parking garage underneath the hospital. The hospital where they died. I spent the rest of the day researching. Hospital records, obituaries, death certificates. I called in sick to work, the first time I'd missed a shift in 11 months, and dedicated myself to understanding what was happening. Sarah Chen, the owner of the blue Honda Civic, had been brought to Mercy General's emergency room after a head-on collision with a drunk driver. She died 3 hours later from internal bleeding. Marcus Johnson, the red Toyota Camry, had been rushed to the cardiac unit after collapsing at work. He never made it home. One by one, I traced each license plate to its owner and each owner to their death at Mercy General Hospital. Car accidents, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, pneumonia. The causes varied, but the location was always the same. They had all died in the hospital above my head. But the worst part was still coming. That night, I returned to work with a new understanding of what I was seeing. These weren't just random cars appearing and disappearing. They were the vehicles of the dead, somehow trapped in an eternal circuit of the hospital's parking garage. But why? And why was I the only one seeing them? I decided to review the security footage from the past month, looking for patterns I might have missed. The hospital security system kept digital records going back 2 years, and I had access to all of it as part of my job. I started with the footage from 3 weeks ago when I first noticed the blue Honda Civic. There it was, clear as day, sitting in spot 47 on level B3. But when I looked at the timestamp, something was wrong. The car appeared at 2:17 a.m., exactly when I had logged it, but according to the entry-exit logs, no car had entered the garage after 8:23 p.m. I fast-forwarded through the footage, watching the car sit motionless for exactly 1 hour before simply fading away. Not driving away, not moving to a different spot, just gradually becoming transparent until it was gone. I checked the footage for the other cars. Same thing. They would materialize during my rounds, sit for an hour, then fade into nothing. The cameras were recording them, but the entry-exit system showed no activity. I was about to close the video player when I noticed something in the corner of the screen. In the background of the footage from level B7, barely visible in the grainy black and white image, was a car I recognized.
My car. A green Subaru Outback. License plate ABC1234. My exact car sitting in spot 91 on level B7. But I had never parked there. Not once in my entire year of working at the hospital. I checked the timestamp on the footage. The video was from 13 months ago, 2 months before I even started working at Mercy General. My hands were shaking as I searched through more footage. I found video after video of my car appearing in that same spot night after night for exactly 1 hour before fading away. The pattern went back over a year, long before I had any connection to the hospital. But that was impossible. 13 months ago, I was working security at a downtown office building. I had never even been to Mercy General, except for a brief visit to the emergency room 2 years ago when I'd cut my hand on a broken bottle. I called in sick again and spent the day trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I pulled up every piece of security footage I could access, going back as far as the system would allow. The pattern was consistent. My car had been appearing in the parking garage for over a year, but I had only been working there for 11 months. That's when I decided to look up the employment records. The hospital's HR system was accessible through the security office computer, and I had legitimate access as part of my background check clearance. I searched for my own employment file,
looking for any discrepancies or errors that might explain what I was seeing. That's when I found him. There had been another night security guard before me. His name was Michael Torres. Same for his name as mine, which explained why some of the paperwork had been confusing when I started. He had worked the night shift for exactly a year before he died. Michael Torres had suffered a heart attack during his shift on March 15, 2023. He was found in the security office at 3:47 a.m. by the morning shift supervisor. The paramedics rushed him to the ER, but he was pronounced dead at 4:23 a.m. Room 847. He died in room 847. I stared at the screen, reading the details of his death over and over. Michael Torres had been 34 years old, unmarried, no next of kin. He had been working at Mercy General for exactly 365 days when he died. The hospital had hired me to replace him 3 weeks later. They gave me his badge, his keys, his parking spot assignment, even his locker. But somehow the records had gotten mixed up. The parking spot they assigned me, spot 15 on level B-1, that wasn't my spot, according to the original assignment sheet. That was his spot. The spot where my car had been appearing in the footage, spot 91 on level B-7, that was supposed to be mine. It was the spot assigned to the new night security guard hired to replace Michael Torres, the spot assigned to me. But I had never parked there. I had been using Michael Torres's old spot on level B1 for the past 11 months without realizing it. I dug deeper into the employment records, looking for more details about Michael Torres. What I found made my blood run cold. He had started experiencing the same phenomena I was seeing. His incident reports from the months leading up to his death were filled with references to unauthorized vehicles and security system malfunctions. He had documented dozens of cars appearing and disappearing during his shifts, just like I had. In his final report, dated the night before he died, he wrote, "The cars aren't random. They belong to patients who died in the hospital. I've confirmed this through research. I don't understand why I'm seeing them or what they want, but I know something is wrong. I found footage of my own car in the garage from before I started working here. I think I'm supposed to be down there with them." The report ended there. I checked the date of his death against my employment records. Michael Torres died on March 15th, 2023. I was hired on April 8th, 2023. But the security footage showed my car appearing in the garage starting on February 15th, 2023. Exactly 1 month before Torres died, and 2 months before I was hired. The implications were staggering. If Torres was seeing dead people's cars in the parking garage, and if he found footage of his own car appearing before he started working there, then what did that mean for me? I looked at the calendar on the wall. Today was March 15th, 2024. Exactly 1 year since Michael Torres died. And today was my 365th day of employment. I sat in the security office that night, staring at the clock on the wall. 11:47 p.m. My shift had started at 11 p.m., just like every night for the past year. But tonight felt different. Tonight I knew what was coming. I opened my laptop and started typing, documenting everything I had discovered. If something happened to me, if I followed the same path as Michael Torres, I wanted someone to know the truth. I wanted someone to understand what was happening in the parking garage beneath Mercy General Hospital. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the concrete walls. The security monitors flickered with feeds from the 37 cameras throughout the garage, showing empty level after empty level. But I knew that wasn't the whole truth. There were cars down there, dozens of them. belonging to people who had died in the hospital above. They were trapped in an eternal circuit, appearing and disappearing according to some cosmic schedule I didn't understand. And my car was one of them. I had been seeing it in the security footage for over a year, appearing in spot 91 on level B7 every night for exactly 1 hour. But I had never parked there. I had never even been to that level during my working hours. Except tonight. Tonight, I knew I was going to walk down to level B7.
I knew I was going to find my car waiting for me in spot 91. And I knew that once I got there, I would understand everything. The clock on the wall showed 11:58 p.m. In 2 minutes, I would make my first round of the night. In 2 minutes, I would begin the walk that would take me to level B7 in the truth that waited there. I could feel it pulling at me like a magnetic force, drawing me toward the elevators. The same force that had drawn Michael Torres a year ago. The same force that had drawn dozens of other people over the years, people whose cars I had been seeing in the garage. At 11:59 p.m., I heard the elevator ding. Someone was coming up from the lower levels. But that was impossible. The garage was empty. It was always empty during my shift. The elevator doors opened, and I saw a figure step out. It was a man in a security uniform, same as mine. Same badge, same keys, same flashlight. But his face was pale and his eyes were hollow. "Michael Torres?" I whispered. He looked at me and nodded slowly. "You're seeing them too, aren't you? The cars?" "Yes." "Then you know what's happening. You know why we're here." I stood up from my chair, my legs shaking. "I don't understand. You died a year ago." "Did I?" He looked down at his hands, then back at me. "I remember having a heart attack. I remember the paramedics. But I also remember waking up in the parking garage, walking the same rounds, seeing the same cars, night after night for a year." "But you're dead." "Am I?" He stepped closer and I could see through him now, like he was made of smoke. "Or are you?" The clock on the wall chimed midnight, March 16th, 2024, day 366 of my employment. Except I wasn't employed anymore. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I looked down at my hands and they were translucent. I could see through them to the desk below. I looked in the mirror on the wall and my reflection was fading. "The heart attack," I whispered. "When did I have the heart attack?" "Same time I did," Michael Torres said. 3:47 a.m. That's when it happens. That's when the job claims us. "But I'm still here. I'm still working." "Are you? Or are you just repeating the same pattern over and over, like the cars, like all of us?" I thought about the past year, trying to remember details, the faces of the day shift supervisors, the conversations with coworkers, the routine of my daily life outside the hospital. But it was all hazy, like trying to remember a dream after waking up. "How many of us are there?" I asked. "I don't know. I've seen others. Security guards, maintenance workers, even some of the overnight medical staff. We're all trapped here, all following the same patterns we did when we were alive." "But why?" Michael Torres walked over to the window that looked out over the parking garage. "Look down there. Really look." I joined him at the window, and for the first time I saw the parking garage as it really was. Not empty, but full. Hundreds of cars, maybe thousands, parked in neat rows across all 7 levels. Cars from every decade, every era. Some were modern, some were vintage. All of them belonged to people who had died in the hospital above. "It's a way station," Michael said. "A place where the dead wait before moving on. But some of us get stuck. We become part of the machinery that keeps it running. The security guards, among others. We're the caretakers, the ones who watch over the waiting souls. I looked at the cars below, and I could see figures moving between them. Translucent people like Michael and me, walking endless circuits through the garage. Some were in hospital gowns, others in regular clothes. All of them had died in the hospital above. My car? I said. It's down there, isn't it? Level B7, spot 91. It's been waiting for you. For how long? Since the day you died. March 15th, 2024. You had a heart attack during your shift, just like I did, just like the guard before me and the one before him. It's part of the job, Mike. Part of the price we pay for keeping the boundary between life and death. I felt the pull again, stronger now, the magnetic force that had been drawing me toward the elevator all night. But now I understood what it was. It wasn't just curiosity or compulsion, it was completion. I have to go down there, don't I? Yes, but not alone. I'll walk with you. We left the security office together, two dead men fulfilling our eternal duty. The elevator descended through the levels, past the cars of the living on the upper floors, past the mixed zone in the middle levels, down to the realm of the dead at the bottom. Level B7 was exactly as I had seen it in the security footage, but now I could see it clearly. My green Subaru Outback sat in spot 91, waiting for me. It looked exactly as it had on the day I died, clean and well-maintained, frozen in time. What happens now? I asked. Now, we wait, Michael said. We watch over the garage. We document the comings and goings. We help the newly dead find their way. And eventually, when our time is up, we'll move on too. How long? I don't know. It's different for everyone. Some move on quickly, others take decades. But we all move on eventually. I walked over to my car and put my hand on the hood. It was warm, as if the engine had been running recently. Will anyone remember us? The living? Probably not. But the dead remember. And sometimes that's enough. I looked back at the elevator, thinking about the security office above, the job I had been doing for a year without knowing I was dead. What about the next guard? The one who replaces me? He's already been hired. James Morrison. He starts tomorrow night. He'll experience the same things we did, see the same cars, ask the same questions, and eventually, he'll join us down here. That's horrible. Is it?
Or is it just the way things are? Someone has to watch over the dead, Mike. Someone has to maintain the boundary. We're not victims. We're guardians. I thought about that as I stood next to my car in the fluorescent-lit parking garage 7 levels beneath Mercy General Hospital. Around me, hundreds of other dead souls went about their eternal routines, waiting for whatever came next.
Some were reading newspapers from the day they died. Others were having conversations with invisible companions. A few were simply standing next to their cars like me, trying to understand their place in this strange afterlife. I'm scared, I admitted. That's normal. Death is scary even when you're already dead. But you're not alone. None of us are. I opened the door of my Subaru and sat in the driver's seat. It felt familiar, comfortable, like coming home after a long journey. Michael Torres got into the passenger seat and we sat there in silence for a while, watching the other dead souls go about their business. What do we do now? I asked. We wait. We watch. We help when we can. And we trust that eventually we'll understand why we're here. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. They were becoming more solid, more real. The longer I sat in the car, the more I felt like myself again. Not the confused, frightened ghost I had been upstairs, but the person I had been in life. Thank you, I said to Michael. For what? For helping me understand. For not letting me face this alone. That's what we do here. We take care of each other. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. For the first time in a year, I felt at peace. I was dead, trapped in a parking garage beneath a hospital, doomed to an eternity of watching over other dead souls. But I wasn't alone. I had purpose. I had meaning. And maybe someday I would understand why. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting their harsh glow over the parking garage. The clock on the wall of the security office, 7 levels above, showed 3:47 a.m. In a few hours, the morning shift would arrive and a new security guard would take over the day shift, never knowing that the night shift belonged to the dead. James Morrison would start his first shift tomorrow night. He would walk the same rounds, see the same cars, ask the same questions. And eventually, he would join us down here in the parking garage, beneath Mercy General Hospital. But that was tomorrow's concern. Tonight, I was exactly where I belonged. This account was compiled from security footage, employment records, and incident reports found at Mercy General Hospital. The night security guard position remains active with a turnover rate of exactly 1 year per employee. The parking garage continues to operate normally during daylight hours. The hospital administration has no comment on the unusual employment pattern or the security anomalies reported by night shift personnel.